Let's talk about the next thing that we're gonna do. We have our part and out on the grinder. It's gonna be held in a vise like so. All right. So the grinding wheel, it's gonna be coming down and touching off on the part. And then we're going to be moving close to this surface here, but that's one of the reasons we have this relief right here in the corner, is so we don't crash into this sidewall. We're going to be getting it pretty close, and then we'll be feeding out and grinding this surface. An interesting thing happens when we're doing a setup like this. If I lower the wheel and I grind this side and I re-zero my wheel setting, and then if I take my part, I flip it around, and then I come back down and touch off, and then I grind back to the same setting on my dial, then minus the amount that my grinding wheel eroded while the grinding was taking place, I will have a more or less self-centered perfect V. So if we can just ignore the slight amount of wear that happens to the grinding wheel while we're removing the material, we can just say to ourselves, or we can understand that we're having a self-improving operation here when we grind like this. All right. Now, you have 2 V blocks. I have 1. What I want you to do is I want you to find which V block surface is the closest to the table, the surface plate, because that's the one that I want you to touch off on with your grinding wheel, grind it to where it's clean, and then set your 0. And that'll be for our rough grind. So we're gonna find the shortest distance from the surface plate to the angle. We're gonna mark that surface. That'll be the first one we start on. And then all the other ones will be ground to the same setting. From there, we can inspect with a dowel pin and find out how wide or deep your V has been ground. A very simple way to get this measurement, I mean, I could set up a depth mic and just measure, but a simple way to get that measurement would also be to take it and get it as a comparative measurement with an indicator. So here I am, my part's just sitting in the sine vise. I have set up an indicator and I've zeroed out the indicator on this surface. And I want to make a little note of where the little dial is pointing in case I had a really big error. Now, if I slide this off to the side, flip my part around. Now when I slide this back here, we can see that this surface is about 5 thousandths closer or lower than the first side, and I can tell that by if I pull this up, it starts to go clockwise. So I was at 0, now I'm at 5. So this surface is 5 thousandths lower down, closer to the table, and I can run back and forth and see if I have any big errors where I was far from being square when I cut those surfaces, but you can see it's pretty straight. So what I want to do, take a marker, mark that surface. You're going to mark the surface of your lowest reading, because that's going to be the side again that we're going to initially rough grind to set our 0 to. So let's go out to the machine and see what that looks like. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to touch off, and I'll be doing this by manually moving the table back and forth and lowering down the grinding wheel very carefully. After I touch off, I'll probably drop the grinding wheel 1/1000ths, and then I'll just start grinding. As soon as this surface cleans, I'm gonna zero my dials or record the number that it's on, and then I'm gonna flip the part, come raise the wheel, touch off, and then grind back to that same setting or that same location, and that's gonna be my rough grind, which will have centered my V to a pretty high degree of accuracy. Since I'm not going to be removing a lot of material, my wheel isn't going to be changing size, at least not by a large margin. Okay, so I think I heard it lightly touch. Yep. All right, so now what I'm gonna do is the grinding wheel's kind of blocking out your shot, but I'm gonna feed the part in kind of close to the wheel. Like you can see right here, there is a gap, but it needs to be pretty close. A little closer actually. Now I'll feed across. Oh, I forgot I was going to down feed 1/1000ths. So I got a little touch off. Now I'm going to move the table out, going counterclockwise. I'll come back, counterclockwise move. I got to make sure I'm clearing my part when I'm doing those strokes. On that one, I didn't actually get all the way out the part. So pay attention to your work. Well, now I know that I touched off on the material good. I'm going to go ahead and lower the wheel 1/1000ths of an inch. Bring the wheel up. Gonna lower another 1/1000ths. Bringing the wheel in close. I almost have a full cleanup, so I'm going to do one more pass. Yeah, one more pass will put me to cleanup. This is my rough end. All right, I got a full clean. All right, so I raised the wheel 20 thousandths, and I didn't redress the wheel though. I want to point that out. I got everything cleaned up very, very nicely, and now I'm ready to turn on the wheel and then come back in and touch off. And I see a big light gap. So 20 thousandths of raising the wheel was plenty. You might even be catching that on camera. So now I'm running it down using the 10th increment dial. I'm getting pretty close. Okay, so I found the metal. All right, and I'm about 5.5 thousandths above my zero that I set from where I raised up. So I'm just going to run the wheel in, close to the wall. It's in the relief, and I only ran down a half. So lightly ground. All right. I'm gonna go another half. And what I just did when I went that is I got my mark where I landed on my 1 setting. Now it's lined up to whole 1/1000th divisions. So it's just a matter of me taking a handful of passes here, and then I'll be roughed in on this V. And I'll drop a thou. I'll run it in. All right, I got 6 thousandths to remove. So not a whole lot. Alright. This is what I was talking about. So I'm on my 0, I'm on my 1 right here. So that's roughed in. Let's go see how it looks.